This is the Almost Timely newsletter for December 18th, 2022. What's on my mind this week? Free book inside. This is the final newsletter of 2022 because the next two Sundays, the next two publishing dates fall on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. And let's face it, neither you or I want to be reading email newsletters on those days if we can possibly help it. So this will be it. So let's close out 2022 with a bang. First, got a gift for you. I took all of the letter parts of the newsletter, of every Almost Timely newsletter for this year, and copy-pasted them into a book. To my great surprise, it weighed in at almost 50,000 words, which is the average length of your standard business book these days. Apparently, I had a lot to say this year. However, instead of the usual price or filling out forms and stuff like that, I'm just giving it away. So in the newsletter, no strings attached. You can get the PDF, the Mobi format, or the EPUB format. No forms to fill out, no hoops to jump through. Just grab the book. Please feel free, share it far and wide. Give it away to anybody you want. Give it to them as a Christmas gift. Re-gift it. You can share the newsletter post or the links themselves. I don't care. All I ask is just make sure that you don't make any derivative works. Share the book as is. And be sure to pay attention to the warnings in the introduction of the book too. I didn't expect to write the equivalent of another book with these newsletters, but here we are. It turns out that when you start making video from your content like this, your content gets much longer. Much longer. And I think that's a useful lesson to all of us. In our ongoing quest to make more stuff, we don't often pause to look back at everything that we've done and see the size and the scope of the body of work that we've made. Right? How much content did you create this year, if you were to sum it all up? Now, think about it for a moment. The average person speaks at approximately 120 to 150 words per minute. If you recorded, say, 10 podcasts this year, 30 minutes each, you've written 45,000 words, right? Even if 2/3 of that were nonsense, that was still 15,000 words. That's still a decent amount of content, and that's just public content, right? Think about what you've written in newsletters. Think about what you've written in comments on social media posts, right? All that stuff that you leave comments on LinkedIn, for example, you're cranking out content. Think about blog posts you've put up, right? Any kind of content that you're writing, that you're creating, that contributes to that body of work for the year. Think about non-public content. How much content do you create privately that does not contain confidential information? Suppose you were to log every conference call you've been on, every email you've written, every response you've given. What if you could capture that content and reuse it? You've probably written 3 or 4 books this year already. Easily. Possibly more, depending on how much you have to explain to coworkers and customers throughout the year, or how much you talk about topics you really care about to others. Think about the last time you hung out with friends, right? If you were keeping track of a topic you were really passionate about, how much stuff did you say? Right? Now, it doesn't have to be, big cerebral topics. It can be your favorite Dancing with the Stars contestants or whatever. Whatever the thing is, though, if you're passionate about it, if you're excited about it, if you're talking a lot about it, you're creating content about it. You're just not necessarily capturing it and republishing it in a usable format. What if you did? Right? What if you took something that you were really, really interested about, something you could talk to a friend about for hours? What would that look like? What kind of content would that be? How much of it is there? Take note anytime you're asked to produce content of what it is you're producing, and then collect it. Store it in some kind of a system. Evernote, Joplin, Microsoft OneNote, you name it. There's so many different systems. But store that stuff, log it. my rule of thumb with social media is if I write more than a paragraph, I'm going to copy and paste it into a notebook because I might want to expand on it later or recap it or something along those lines. If you have permission to do so, record when you're saying things. Right? I use the Rodecaster, which is a soundboard for this microphone, and there's a record button that only records me. It only records me. It does not record the other party. And so if I'm on a meeting or something, or I'm talking to somebody and giving advice, if someone's asked, for a few minutes to chat through something on their mind, I'll hit record on my end. Again, not recording what they have to say. It's my stuff only. But then I can take that, transcribe it, and use it, right? As long as it's not confidential information. When you get to the end of the year, look at that collection of stuff that you've logged throughout the year, review it, and there might be enough to make a book like this one, maybe 2 books, maybe 3 books, and you've got something useful that you can go share with your community. A lot of people will say, I'd like to write a book, but I don't have the time, or I don't know what I would write about, or it seems like such a daunting thing. It doesn't have to be. How do you write a book? 1 week at a time. Right? That's what we did with this newsletter. 1 week at a time turned to 50,000 words of content. You could do the same thing. You could do the same thing with the content that you're creating already without having to add anything more into your schedule, just being a little more process-oriented about capturing that content and then making it available in some other form later on. So perhaps 2023 will be your year when you publish that next book of yours or that first book of yours based on the things that you already talk about. I wish you a safe, happy, and healthy holiday season and a wonderful 2023. See you next year. Now, let's talk about what else is in the news this week, this final newsletter of 2022. We finished out the 12 days of data. So we covered private social media networks, Instagram for brands, Instagram for influencers, content republishing, top news of the year, press release statistics, one of my favorites, the most overused words in press releases, engagement on TikTok, recession economic indicators, content creator monetization platforms, the social media barometer, and my personal favorite from the 12, top songs on Spotify playlists. That one was a lot of fun. It was like 42,000 playlists, looking at the common songs on them. There's a link in the article itself to the Spotify playlist if you want to hear the top 30 songs of the year from other people's playlists. That was, like I said, a lot of fun to put that together. In the news, in the jobs and hiring this week, we have data engineer manager at Sogama, director of growth marketing at McGaw, director of lifecycle marketing at Pet Lab, director of marketing at Frequency, director of product marketing at PTW, senior content marketing manager at Maltago, and senior technical marketing analyst at Fury. So lots and lots of positions, a lot of director positions this week, which is kind of interesting. It's a little bit different. As always, this is going to be like the last 2 weeks that the 2023 marketing planning guide is going to be available, so get your copy before it goes away. And then in other news this week, how to set up a time-saving social media workflow with Agorapulse. Twitter's owner is warned to prepare for mass arbitration. Thousands of lawsuits headed his way. Talking about writer's block and ChatGPT. Enterprise SEO. We have doing machine learning with limited data. We have data and automation for transformation enterprise, call center modernization with AI, R or Python for data science, and then some fun articles like Apple's emergency SOS, helping rescue a car going off a cliff, why you should wait for the iPhone 15, and one of my favorite past episodes of Hot Ones, Terry Crews hallucinating while eating spicy hot wings. So that is the newsletter for this week. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here, whether this is your first newsletter or you've been tuned in all 12 years of the Almost Timely newsletter. But thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I hope that you have a great holiday season and that next year is as good as you want it to be. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you soon. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.